Hare Krishna. So Hare Krishna, we are very fortunate to have his association of His Grace Tattvavit Prabhu. I'll just read his introduction just briefly. His Grace Tattvavit Prabhu is a devotee from America initiated by Srila Prabhupada in 1974. Tattvavit Prabhu means the servant of one who knows the absolute truth. He was born in and raised in a small Catholic town in Minnesota. His father built a successful automobile business. In Back to God article, Tattvavit Prabhu described his father's views of life and death and explained the transmigration of a soul according to the Bhagavad Gita. Tattvavit Prabhu encountered Krishna consciousness in early 1970 and joined ISKCON 2 years after graduating from the University of Minnesota. Srila Prabhupada's example and firm faith inspired him, and he shared his experience with Srila Prabhupada in 2 articles for Back to Godhead, one of which also described the influence that college professor had on him. From 1975 to 1977, Tattvavit Prabhu took part in the activities of ISKCON Library Party. A group of that devotee distributed Srila Prabhupada books on thousands for North American college and the universities and campus. During that time, the Library Party met up with the hard literature by Srila Prabhupada in 8 cities. He has been active in the movement, mainly in the literary field, editing 40 books and writing 40 articles. He has traveled 40 countries to take part in the movements of activities. He edited the Nectar of Book Distribution, Darshan, the BPT large book of deity photos, Bhurijan Prabhu's overview of Bhagavad Gita Saranam to me. Most recently, in 2021 to 26, he co-edited 5 volumes of ISKCON Communication Journal. He has visited hundreds of ISKCON centers in North America, Europe, Asia, Africa, and he was in China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan for 4 years. He has stays healthy by following the Ayurvedic guidelines and practicing Iyengar Yoga, which his god sister in Los Angeles taught him on Zoom. So we are very fortunate to have association of His Grace Tattvavit Prabhu. Actually, we say we can have a pride to say we have seen Srila Prabhupada disciples. All of you have dedicated, all of you have so much life. Throughout life you have done so much for Prabhupada's movement. So very grateful to have you have come here and having your association. Thank you for that. So let us chant one time Hare Krishna Mahamantra for welcoming to Sri Radha Kunjvari temple. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. His Grace Tattvavit Prabhu ki jai.
Thank you, Lali. Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopichana Vallabha Madhava Kunja Vihari.
Do you want fan? Fan should we turn on?
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajagacharya Ashto Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Kodi Vaishnavrinda Ki ISKCON Stapkacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinatha Shaima Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. I think I need somebody to fan the flies away because there's no fan overhead and the flies are disturbing. Can somebody do that? Is there a tissue? A tissue? Tissue. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 14, Text 41. Purusheshvapi Rajendra Purusheshvapi Rajendra Shupatram Brahmanam Vidu Shupatram Brahmanam Vidu Tapasa Vidyayatustya Tapasa Vidyayatustya Dote Vedam Harestanu Dote Vedam Harestanu. That's good. Thank you. Purusheshva Pirajendra Supatram Brahmanam Vidu Tapasa Vidyaya Tustya Date Vedam Haristanu. Please chant. Supatram Brahmanam Vidu Tapasa Vidyaya Tustya Vedam Harestanu. Purusheshvapi Rajendra Supatram Brahmanam Vidu Don't be lazy. Supatram Brahmanam Vadu Tapasavidya Tushta Natajanam Haristanum Supatram Brahmanam Vadu Tapasavidya Tushta Tatvidam Haristanum Supatram Brahmanam Children, Guru says Rajendra Patram Brahmanam
Tapsa vidya tustya Datte vedam harestanam
Guru Seshu among persons api indeed Rajendra, O best of the kings, Supatram, the best person, Brahmanam, the qualified Brahman, Vedu, one should know, Tapasa, due to austerity, Vidyaya, education, Tustya, and satisfaction, Dati, he assumes, Vedam, the transcendental knowledge known as Veda, Hare, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Tanum, body or representation. Translation and purport. My dear King of all persons, a qualified Brahman must be accepted as the best within this material world, because such a Brahman, by practicing austerity, Vedic studies, and satisfaction, becomes the counterpoint body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From the Vedas, we learn that the Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Person. Every living entity is an individual person, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the Supreme Person. A Brahman who is well versed in Vedic knowledge and fully conversant with transcendental matters becomes a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore one should worship such a Brahman or Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is superior to a Brahman Because whereas a Brahman knows that he is Brahman, not matter, a Vaishnava knows that he is not only Brahman, but also an eternal servant of the Supreme Brahman. Therefore, worship of a Vaishnava is superior to worship of the deity in the temple. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Sakshabdaritena samasta shastra. In all the scriptures, the spiritual master, who is the best of the Brahmins, the best of the Vaishnavas, is considered to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This does not mean, however, that the Vaishnava thinks himself God, for this is blasphemous. Although a Brahman or a Vaishnava is worshipped as being is worshipped as being as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such a devotee always remains a faithful servant of the Lord and never tries to enjoy the prestige that might accrue to him from being the Supreme Lord's representative. Om Agyanantimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshushummilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Pishtam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttaparakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Scha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Suta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripasindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Vanchakapatarubhyascha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you very much for receiving me and giving me an opportunity to speak with you about the Srimad Bhagavatam. Purusheshvapi Rajendra Suputram Brahmanam Vadu Tapasa Vidyaya Tushtya Tattvit Haristhanu. So Vedam is one of the themes. Veda means the transcendental knowledge. First of all, there's the statement to the king, my dear king of all persons, a qualified Brahmin must be accepted as the best within this world, because he, by practicing austerity, Vedic studies, and satisfaction, becomes the counterpart body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahman is considered the head of the body of the Lord. The body of the Lord Vishnu is divided into 4 parts: the feet and legs, the stomach, the arms, and the head. The Vishnu Sahasranam, 1,000 names of Vishnu sometimes are chanted. Lord Vishnu is generating the world, this material world. From his navel sprouts a lotus. From his skin pores the early forms of the universe come out as spheres. Srila Prabhupada sometimes said, we sweat from the pores of our skin. But the Supreme Lord can generate universes from the pores of his skin. And then the Lord, who generated these universes, enters into each universe. And within each universe, there's a causal ocean. From his navel, the lotus emerges, and the first living entity, Lord Brahma, sits on the navel. And he doesn't understand exactly what's happening. And he hears that he should perform tapasya. He hears the syllables tapa, tapa. And he understands. Because the Lord is within his heart. Also, the Lord is within his heart. That's the final, the third form of Lord Vishnu. He enters into the hearts of all. So Brahma becomes enlightened. And he begins to meditate. And then eventually, the spiritual world is revealed to him, and he recites the Sri Brahma Samhita, which describes Krishna. And then, of course, the Bhagavatam tells us about how Lord Brahma had to carry out duties as the creator. It was not a small task. It was a huge responsibility I don't think there's a school that teaches how to create the universe. Everybody studies IT or other fields. But this education, how to create the universe, this had to be there at the beginning of time. So the Vedic culture, the Vedic civilization and culture, it consists of 8 divisions: the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, and the sannyasi, vanaprast, grihastha, and brahmachari, right? So in this verse, the Brahmins are described. A qualified Brahmin is accepted as the best in this world because he practices austerity. In that sense, he's like Lord Brahma. He studies the Vedas. The Vedas are said to be manifest from the breathing of the Lord. Have any of you here tried to memorize some of the Vedic hymns? The Vedic mantras? Can any of you recite some of those Vedic mantras? I think there are some devotees in ISKCON that can do that. They can recite some of the Vedic mantras. Sometimes they do that when there's a fire yajna at the opening of a temple or the installation of a deity. Lots of recitation of the syllables of the Vedic mantras. So those who practice that, they're considered the Brahminical order. And they also practice one other thing: satisfaction. Austerity, Vedic studies, and satisfaction. So something happens to them. They become something. They become the counterpart body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This isn't too surprising. We also know that the Kshatriya, the king, becomes the representative of the Lord. He's called, what's the term? Deva? Narada-dev? Is that it? Narada? The Lord, the king who is the representative of the Lord. What's the Sanskrit word? Narada. Yeah, Narada is the person who represents God, the king. So the king is representing Krishna. The Brahman is representing Krishna. Therefore, they're respected. And Prabhupada says that those who don't behave with respect toward these persons, they're materialistic devotees. They're devotees on the 3rd class, Kanishta Adhikaris. Here Prabhupada writes that one should worship a Brahman or a Vaishnava because he's such an outstanding, they're both such outstanding persons, the best persons. But then Prabhupada goes further. He says that a Vaishnava is superior to a Brahmin because of the limited knowledge of the Brahmin. The Brahmin knows that I'm Brahman, I'm not matter, I'm spirit. I'm part of the Supreme Spirit, Brahman. I'm not matter. But a Vaishnava knows something more. I'm not only Brahman, but I'm an eternal servant of the Supreme Brahman. So this knowledge, basic Vaishnava knowledge, is not just aham brahmasmi, but daso shmi. I'm serving the Supreme Brahman. And that's natural for the living entity. It's a natural feeling in the heart of the living entity. The Supreme Lord is in his heart. So this knowledge is just so close to his heart. The Lord and the soul are together in the heart. And if this consciousness is awakened, Krishna consciousness, then the consciousness that I'm the servant of the Lord, that awakens, For me, for example, who I didn't take birth in India. I was born in the West. So my introduction to anything having to do with Vedic knowledge came from, for example, posters from India in some shops in the city where I lived. They had posters from India for sale. So I was looking at the posters and I was thinking maybe I should put one of these posters on my wall because they're so colorful. I didn't know exactly what they were all about. So I bought one. I bought a picture of Krishna revealing to Arjuna on the chariot the universal form. And he has many heads, many arms. He shows Arjuna this almost terrifying opulence. Arjuna felt terrified when he saw this opulence of Krishna. That Krishna, with these forms, this universal form, which consists of many heads and many arms, he's maintaining the universe with this form. So I put this on my wall, and I did it with a feeling. I did it with a feeling that this is something that deserves reverence. This is something spiritual. I didn't know what it was yet. I didn't know yet what Krishna consciousness was. In the college bookstore, I saw a translation of Bhagavad Gita by a scholar. And it was considered by scholars to be a very good translation. It was done by a scholar named Edgerton. He had a good reputation as a scholar. But I'm lucky I didn't buy it, I suppose. I didn't have time to read it, I looked at it and I read a few verses and I thought, that's a lot of verses here and it would take time to read this. I don't have time right now. I have my college books to read, so I didn't buy it. And the first Bhagavad Gita I bought was after I graduated from college. And that was Bhagavad Gita by Srila Prabhupada, as it is. And I read it in about 2 days. 2 or 3 days. So I started to go into the whole idea. What is a Vaishnava? What is a Varnashram system? And I got some ideas that this culture from India, the Varnashram culture, was systematically, it was a system, God's system for civilization. Ishopanishad also, Prabhupada, in the introduction to the Ishopanishad, he writes that Varnashram is not Hindu society. Hindu is a foreign word. Real Vedic culture is called Varna Ashram. So, when I encountered the devotees, I only then began to learn anything about a guru. I previously didn't know anything about a guru. So the devotees were my introduction. And gradually, I and thousands of young people like me in America and Europe and Australia, we began to hear about Srila Prabhupada and the history of Srila Prabhupada, which means that we were hearing about the history of his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, and the Gaudiya Math, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta's guru, and his father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. These things unfolded one after the other as we went back into the history. Here Prabhupada writes in the purport, a Vaishnava is superior to a Brahmin because a Brahmin knows only that he's Brahman, he's not matter, but a Vaishnava knows he's a servant of Brahman, the Supreme Brahman. Therefore, the worship of a Vaishnava is superior to the worship of the deity in the temple. These ideas, this morning when I was reading this, reminded me of the time when Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur attended a public debate, and the topic was, who is superior, a Vaishnava or a Brahmin? So, as you know, there was a class of Brahmins who resisted the Vaishnavas. And they particularly resisted Srila Bhakti Siddhanta's attempt to create Brahmins by making people Vaishnavas. But this is in line with the scriptures. One may not be born a Brahmin, but if one performs activities of a Brahmin, if one has the knowledge of a Brahmin, then he can be accepted as a Brahmin. As you know, Srila Prabhupada encountered criticism for awarding the sacred thread to people who were previously Malechas. So there was some caste consciousness. You probably grew up with caste consciousness. You probably consider your family a member of a particular caste, even now, in 2025. Is that true? Are you from a caste? Yes? The answer is yes, isn't it? Are you from a caste? Yes. You can say what caste you're from, correct? No. Yes? Do you consider yourself a member of a caste? Yes. So in America, we don't have anything like that. We have a little bit of class distinction. They're considered different classes of people. It's interesting that Prabhupada is saying that the worship of a Vaishnava is superior to the worship of the deity in the temple. And then he goes on to elaborate on this. First he quotes Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Sakshadari Tvena Samastasasta. The spiritual master has all the qualities of God himself. Just like stated in this verse, a qualified Brahman becomes the counterpoint, the counterpart body of the personality of God, because he practices austerity, he studies the Vedas, and he's satisfied with his position as spirit soul. And a Vaishnava develops all the good qualities of a devotee, it's said. In the Matchless Gift Store in New York City, on 26 2nd Avenue, Prabhupada, one of the first handouts that he gave to the devotees was a handwritten piece of paper listing the qualities, the 26 qualities of a devotee. And he was stressing that the students of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness must develop good qualities. The society is for the development of character. One has to develop a superior character. One has to overcome the qualities that come from the modes of nature. All of us are influenced by the modes of nature. The modes, the gunas are interacting. And therefore each of the different divisions of society are influenced by certain qualities. Here satisfaction is mentioned. When Krishna teaches Arjuna, he says, Tattvavit tu mahabaho guna karma vibhaghayo. One who is in wisdom, he can understand that the gunas are producing qualities, and these qualities are affecting other qualities. And all these mixtures of qualities affect a person. You could say that everyone is running around affected by the qualities of the gunas. So the higher class of human being, he's a Brahman or a Vaishnava, he doesn't think I'm the supreme Brahman, but he makes a distinction. Nityo nityanam chedanas chedanam. There's the supreme eternal person. He's one. Nityo nityanam chedanas chedanam. He's conscious. But then there are many, 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 unlimited number of individual persons who are also eternal and conscious. And the distinction is that one supreme person supplies the needs of all the individual persons. By God's arrangement, we have air to breathe. We have light so that we can see during the day. We have some food provided by God. On God's property, we can grow food for ourselves. So that God is supplying the needs of everyone. So the relationship that one has with God is very important. That's more important than the relation that one has with the modes of nature. One's position in the modes of nature is not as good as one's position on the spiritual platform. So it's given as a caution that you don't think yourself you're the Supreme Lord. Don't think yourself the Supreme Lord. The Vaishnava doesn't think like that. Although the spiritual master, the topmost Vaishnava, he's praised as you have all the qualities of God. Sakshat Dvarite Nasamasta Shastra. And here in this verse, the Brahman is praised as the counterpoint body of the personality of Godhead. So sometimes there's an equality expressed. But the Vaishnava himself does not think, I'm God. Rather, he remains a faithful servant of God and never tries to enjoy the prestige that might come to him from being the Lord's representative. Somebody has to represent God for the other people. Somebody has to be learned. Someone has to know the scriptures and teach people the scriptures. So that's a duty of the spiritual master or the Siksha Guru and the Brahman. The Brahman helps the Grihastas. By performing ceremonies for the family. He's considered the friend of the family. Huh? I'll give you a good idea of how Prabhupada felt. How he was not proud. Prabhupada was not afflicted with a false ego. I'll give you a story. I joined ISKCON as Lalita read. I joined in California. So I joined in January, and in July that year we had Rath Yatra. You might recall that Prabhupada named San Francisco New Jagannath Puri because the devotees started the Rath Yatra in San Francisco. So it started in 67. I joined in 74, so 7 years later. And I was lucky that year Prabhupada came to San Francisco for the Rath Yatra. I also got the opportunity to help assemble the Rath Yatra carts. It took about 6 weeks to prepare for the Rath Yatra festival. Do you know the name of the devotee Jayananda? Jayananda was well known as the organizer of the Rath Yatra in San Francisco. And he went on to organize the first Rath Yatra in New York City, the 1976 Rath Yatra on 5th Avenue. And he also organized the first Rath Yatra in Los Angeles. But at that time, he was at the end of his life. He was sitting in a wheelchair because he had leukemia. But he was going to the Rath Yatra site, and he was directing the workers, you do this, you do that, to put together the carts. So I got to help Jayananda. When I joined, he was the Harinam party, Sankirtan leader. He would take the devotees out on Harinam. We would go to the University of California campus in Berkeley, California. We would go to downtown San Francisco. Wherever there were lots of people, lots of students, Jayananda would take the Harinam party. He was a very good chanter, you know. He could play the madonna. He sang very nicely. And once Srila Prabhupada compared him to Lord Chaitanya. Prabhupada was speaking in a room full of people, and Jayananda entered. He was a few minutes late. And Prabhupada directed the audience's attention to Jayananda. He says, "Oh, Jayananda's here. He looks just like Lord Chaitanya." He said, "Yes, Lord Chaitanya. He was stout and strong." Jayananda was like that. He was tall, stout, and strong. Good-looking man. So, I was going to tell you about I want to make the point by telling you a story about Prabhupada at Rath Yatra. We devotees were finally ready for the Rath Yatra. Prabhupada flew to San Francisco and we met him at the airport. And probably, I think, the next day, the Rath Yatra was taking place. So, we were at the site in Golden Gate Park. You can go there if you aspire to go to America. Do you want to see the places that Prabhupada preached in? Golden Gate Park, Matchless Gifts, Gift Store, New York, New Vrindavan. You can go and see these places. Golden Gate Park. The carts were assembled on a parking lot for about a month before the Rath Yatra. The parking lot was not so far from the temple, but then on the night before the parade, the carts were pulled all the way to Golden Gate Park. And they were there, and the deities had arrived from the temple, Lord Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra. They were put on the carts before Prabhupada arrived. And finally, we were waiting for Prabhupada in the car, to come in the car. So we were having kirtan. And the car pulled up with Prabhupada. And someone jumped out of the car and opened the door. And Prabhupada stepped out of the car. What did he do? What was the first thing he did? He saw the carts. And perhaps he saw, maybe he glimpsed the deities on the cart. But the first thing he did, he paid his Dandavat pranams on the parking lot. I was surprised. I thought, the parking lot, it's dirty. Won't Prabhupada get his clothes dirty? That was what I was worried about. And then he stood up, and there wasn't any dust on his clothes. And then I thought deeper. Later, I began to think more deeply about Prabhupada paying his Dandavat pranams in the parking lot. You know, he could have been thinking. He could have been thinking when he stepped out of the car. Now I'm here. I'm the founder, Acharya. I'm the leader, and these disciples are my servants. No, he didn't think like that. In fact, he sometimes said, I'm not the guru. My disciples are my guru. because they represent my spiritual master. My spiritual master has sent these persons, these boys and girls, he called them sometimes, the young men and young women. They've been sent by my spiritual master so that I can train them. So Prabhupada wasn't affected by a mundane mentality of lording it over the members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. The public thought that. That was something the public thought. That you young people are taken in. He's cheating you because you're going out and selling his books, collecting money. You're giving the funds to him. What are you going to do for money if you give your money to your spiritual master? How will you have any money? Don't you think he's cheating you? That's what the public thought. The parents, some of the parents were frightened that their children were brainwashed by Srila Prabhupada. And eventually there were members of ISKCON who were kidnapped so that their parents could have them deprogrammed. The mind control had to be broken by the deprogrammer. That was what some of the parents were thinking. And finally, there was a court case in Manhattan where Prabhupada started preaching. Manhattan is part of New York City. And Prabhupada was victorious in the court case. Prabhupada won the court case. The judge declared ISKCON is a bona fide religion. So that was momentous, that Prabhupada was so pleased that the court recognized ISKCON as a bona fide religion. He says, now my purpose is accomplished. I came to America to establish Krishna consciousness. Now I've accomplished my purpose. So Prabhupada today, he in the purport for today, he wrote that although a Brahmin or Vaishnava is worshipped as being as good as the personality of Godhead, such a devotee always remains a faithful servant of the Lord, never tries to enjoy the prestige that might come to him from being the Supreme Lord's representative. Prabhupada said every penny belongs to Krishna. You cannot misspend. It was actually a very nice experience to sit with Srila Prabhupada. Sometimes, as Lalita read in my bio, sometimes the group that I was doing Sankirtan with, the library party, we were following Prabhupada in the summer. We had our vans. We were mobile. We had vans to go to all the colleges. And during the summer, the colleges weren't in session, so that when Prabhupada would come in the summer, when he would go to Denver, we would go to Denver. When he would go to Chicago, we would drive to Chicago. Then he would go to Detroit, and we would drive up to Detroit. Then he would go to Toronto, and we would follow. So we were really active. We met him in Dallas. Once Prabhupada was sitting in the garden in Dallas. It was so nice to hear him speak about Krishna. You know, he would say, we were outside and in the evening, and he would say, you know, how can you love God? How can you know God? This is God's energy, the sunlight. The air is God's energy, the water, the earth. So you get to know God. You can't love God all at once. Love is not a sudden thing. Love is a gradual thing where the two individuals, they get to know each other, the supreme individual and the living entity. And gradually you develop a loving relationship. Prabhupada said, this is God's omnipotence. This was like a term for God, also used in the Catholic or the Christian church. God is omnipotent, God is omniscient, He's all-knowing, He's all-powerful. But the Bible doesn't tell you how He's all-powerful or tell you about His life. But the Vedas, the Vedic literature, Bhagavatam especially, gives us that knowledge about how God lives and how we can enter into the life of God. We want to go beyond this life of birth and death. So often we think of ourselves in terms of, I was born in this year and I might live to this year if I'm lucky, or I might live up to be 100. But that's, birth and death, we're more than that. We're more than the body. So we have to, by our Krishna conscious development, we have to develop our meditation on the life of God and God's pastimes and find our identity as an eternal servant of God. Any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I heard one of the pastime where Srila Prabhupada was in San Francisco. Chatra was there, and there is a family dog.
Lalita, I have to ask you to speak more slowly and pronounce each word. I'm a little hard of hearing.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. You are able to hear me now?
I can hear you. If you speak slowly, that will help.
I heard one pastime of Srila Prabhupada when Prabhupada was in San Francisco, where the Chatra was there and the auditorium name was Family Dog Auditorium.
I missed it. The
Family Dog
Auditorium
in San Francisco, and there were some black tiger people. They were trying to attack Srila Prabhupada.
Oh.
So Prabhupada never that day he didn't went to Rath Yatra, but directly came on the stage for giving lecture.
Uh-huh.
So at that time you were there. I thought maybe you can narrate the pastime.
Yeah, I guess you see, in America there were racial divides. The black people were struggling for their rights. Martin Luther King and other later followers. Some of the black people were activists and almost violent. They almost advocated violence to get what they wanted. So there was a group called the Black Panthers. Yeah. And sometimes they threatened violence. And sometimes they destroyed the property of white people and so on. So there was also some, I wasn't ever present when the devotees were aware that there were some threats made by them to Prabhupada. I heard that there were some threats that they told the devotees, when your spiritual master comes to this city, we're going to... Also in Australia, wasn't it? No, India. Here in India, there was at the one of big Hare Krishna festivals, some of those people came. They were threatening violence also. So the devotees sometimes had to protect Prabhupada. Also, Prabhupada said sometimes that he felt there were people in society who would like to see him silenced or stopped. He felt that there were some people who he knew enough about society to know that some people can get violent if they don't like somebody. They'll sometimes resort to violence. And Prabhupada said they want to know where the old man is hiding, he said about himself. At the beginning of my years in ISKCON, I didn't know very much about Prabhupada. We didn't have the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita at that point. But we knew that he had been a pharmacist. We knew that he had married and his father helped him get a job in the pharmaceutical industry. So we knew that much. And Prabhupada later started his own branch in Allahabad, Prayag Pharmacy. He developed some liniment. It was called by his name, right? Day's liniment. I made it to Allahabad once, and I was with the Padayatra. And we went to the Gaudiya Math temple. And we said, is this the temple where Prabhupada took initiation? And they said, no, we were still raising funds at that point for this building that we have now. Srila Prabhupada was not initiated in this building. But then they said, you're here in the city for a little while, and the Padayatris explained, yes, we observe Chaturmas here in Allahabad. And now we're just ready to go to Ayodhya. That's our next destination. And the Mat people said to him, well, bring all the Padayatras tonight, because we're having a big feast tonight. There's some sponsor of a big feast tonight. So we all went to the Gaudiya Math for prasadam one night. And I went to the Triveni, even though it wasn't the time of the Kumbh Mela. I went there and I found out you can take a boat, you can pay them, they'll take you in a boat, and in the Triveni area, they actually have wooden platforms built on the riverbed. So you can step out of the boat onto a wooden platform that's underwater by about this much. You get out of the boat, step onto the wooden platform in the middle, and then you can bend down and immerse yourself in the water, and then get back on the boat. So I did that. Any other questions or comments? Remember the guideline, speak slow and distinct.
Hare Krishna.
Here, use this one. You can use this one.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for your class. Prabhuji, you mentioned two very amazing points. One was that the qualities are influenced by the modes, and one was that our relationship with God is more important than the relationship we have with the modes. So we as devotees, we sometimes, due to our conditioning, we identify ourselves with the qualities which we have developed due to the modes. So how can we identify more and more with the that our relationship with God?
we can try to develop the 26 qualities of a devotee. Prabhupada wanted that. He gave the list of the qualities first thing in Matchless Gifts in New York. He said to the devotees, develop your character, serve Krishna, develop the qualities of the devotees. So we can study the qualities of a devotee, especially, by hearing the pastimes. Usually in all the purports, there's descriptions of the qualities of the devotees or the demons, both are described. During the during the Ramnavami festival in Pune, Radhasham Prabhu gave 2 different classes, and in each one, there were such detailed descriptions of the qualities of the characters. What are their motivations? How did they overcome their limitations? So that's a very good field to cultivate in devotional life. Concentrate on that, and also concentrate on the Prakriti, how the Prakriti is made up of the gunas. And in the mode of ignorance, we have certain qualities, mode of passion, and work on your character development. It's not an easy challenge to change, but to recognize that you have to change, that's a good point, and then go from there. Thanks.
Let us thank His Grace, Tatvit Prabhu, for giving His divine association to all of us. So let us chant one time Hare Krishna Mahamantra for thanking us. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. His Grace Tattvavit Prabhu ki Jai.